Now, you might be thinking, Oscar, are you fucking insane? Why can you make that impression so well, like a monkey? Well, everyone can do it, but, you can't, because you're not, connected to nature like I am, bro, and you're also not man enough. But the reason everyone can make that noise is because your vocal cords are almost identical to a chimp's vocal cords, with some minor changes, some minor evolutions, some minor mutations. You know what else is very identical to a chimp? Every single muscle, bone, nerve, vein, sinew, every aspect of your body is almost identical to a chimp's body. Now, you're a monkey. What does that mean, in terms of how you think about other creatures and your place within the world? Well, let's talk about that. Humanity. What does that word mean, right? Well, let's think about it. Human, obviously, so humanity. It implies that there's some special quality about humans that separates us from all of the other beings, you know what I mean? Humanity. A cow couldn't have humanity. It's not a human, right? So what does humanity mean, right? Well, there's a lot of suggestions by different people, you know what I mean? Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's empathy for others, maybe it's our ability to make art, music and pictures. Maybe it's our ability to understand our place in the world, as if anyone can do that. It's the idea being that humans are able to philosophize, look up at the sky and think about our place within the universe and understand our place, as if any being that we know of has ever had the ability to comprehend 1% of any of the scale of existence and the cosmos itself. That's a ridiculous idea that, humans okay, I'll get back to it, right? Let's break this down, point by point, right? So I'm going to do art, compassion and empathy, and philosophical understanding, right? So let's go empathy first. Humans are able to see other humans and be like, oh, that's another human. They have feelings like I do, and I'm going to do what I can, or not even necessarily, do anything about it, but you have the ability to understand what another person's needs and wants are, and you have the ability to see their emotions, read their emotions, right? That's empathy, right? So, have you ever had a dog? Have you ever met a dog? Have you seen how the dog looks at you? So, okay, you can point, right? So, if you point to something, and a well-trained dog will not look at your finger, it'll look where you're pointing, right? Which is actually a lot bigger of a deal than it seems. So, most animals, if you were like, they would just be like, oh, with your hand, there's something with your finger you want me to do. They wouldn't understand symbolism, a sign language. Think about that. That's sign language. A dog understands symbology, in that you pointing is not just an act of you pointing, it's your signing that it needs to pay attention to something over there, right? Which is actually kind of a leap if you think about it, right? So elephants, right? A tribe of elephants, they're called a herd, but that sounds like a cow or something. They're a tribe, you know what I mean? They have a matriarch, so they have the mother elephant of the group who remembers the migratory routes, she remembers where the water holes are, she remembers how the seasons go, she knows how to raise the calves and avoid dangers and all that sort of stuff. So there's this great story, I'll see if I can find it and edit some stuff in, about there's a particular tribe with a particular matriarch who every year when they do their migratory route, she stops by the place where her sister died, right? So the matriarch's sister died in this one spot, and her bones are there, and her tusks are there. So every year, they do this every year, she brings all of the other elephants to this gravesite, and they pick up the tusks. I'll see if I can get some, images of it here. if there are any, they pick up these tusks of her dead sister and they stand in a circle and they pass them around between each other and they take a moment and reflect, and they're doing something. Like, that's not nothing. Like, people want to dismiss all that shit as like, oh, that's something right there. And an elephant is a very smart creature, you know what I mean? Dolphins, chimps, even ravens, corvids, crows, they have complex social structures. Wolf packs, another good example. Lion prides. Think about the concept of having a mother. So what is a mother? What does a mother do for her child, right? So a mother hen or a mother eagle. A mother eagle spends months caring for a single chick sometimes. I think they're in the Amazon. They're called like Harlequin or something. She spends months caring for her chick, and she feeds and she hunts every day, and the mom and the father work together, and that's a bird, bruh. That thing evolved from a dinosaur. That's split off from us hundreds of millions of years ago. All right, these deep chemical pathways that have to do with empathizing and caring and all this stuff is evolved billions of years ago. Like, lobsters have dopamine hierarchies, right? So if you're a man, you might relate to this. You have subconscious parts of your mind that will track your standing with other males in the group for mating order and stuff. This will happen in a lion pride, this will happen in a tribe of humans, and it also happens with fucking lobsters, right? So lobsters, which is essentially a bug that lives underwater, right? They keep track of their hierarchy with the other males with dopamine, right? So do you think that that's just a little robot walking around? Or do you think probably it makes more sense that lobster actually internally feels its own alpha or beta status as a feeling, as an emotion? Like, that seems like that's evolved deep within the way that minds and organisms work, right? So let's move on to philosophical understanding. I said a little bit about it earlier. I'm trying not to make this like a 40-minute long video because I could go on for hours about this, so I've got it all, here. Philosophical understanding. So there's this amazing video I saw a few years ago. I'll put a link to it, or I'll put some images up or something. It's a female chimp, and it's an old video, and she's looking in the mirror for the first time in her life, right? And you can see she's like, oh, she sees herself in the mirror, and she's like, oh, what's that? And then she realizes it's her. She's like moving around, she's like looking, and then she goes and she sits in front of the mirror, and she just stares into her own eyes, and she starts she looks at her face, and she looks at her teeth, and she looks at her eyes, and it's actually a very moving video, because you can see this fucking monkey is realizing, like, oh, this is me, this is who I am, look at me, look at how I look. Like, that's a deep, like, put a fucking rat in front of a mirror, the most it's gonna do is, like, think it's another rat. Like, or maybe a rat's not a good example, a lizard or something cannot conceive of anything like that. That's a big thing to understand. That's me, here I am, in the world, right? That's a form of philosophical understanding, if there is any at all, right? Dolphins have their own languages. They have their own accents. So if a dolphin scientist listens to a call of a dolphin, they can tell you which part of the world it's from, because they have different accents and languages based on where they're from in different pods, right? I already talked about the abstract symbolism with dogs. Chimps have tribal warfare. Chimps have tribes, and they have tribal warfare. So there's this great story, and I don't remember every single detail, but basically, it's a tribe of chimps, which is simply a family unit. It's aunties and uncles and mothers and sons and daughters and cousins. That forms up a tribe of chimps. And one of the new, younger chimps will fight the dominant chimp, right? So the younger chimp fights the dominant chimp. It'll be his nephew or something. And then if neither of them hurts the other one, sometimes there's a tie, right? And the young chimp gets, like, a certain amount of the members of the tribe on his side, and the old chimp has a certain amount of members of his on his side, and the tribe splits, right? This happens in, like, the Congo in Africa and stuff. So the tribe splits apart, and then they live close to each other, and they do guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla tactics is in, like, so the chimps actually go on by themselves to forage during the day, and they can recognize each other. So they would have warfare and slowly pick off the other members of the tribe, were like ambushing them and coming out of the trees and defeating certain members. And what they did, this is really interesting, it's kind of horrible, but it's interesting, they kill all the men and they take all the women, right? So that's analogous. I can think of some people some species of animals that do that a lot, kill all the men in the tribe and take the women because they're good for, the population and everything, and that's how hormones work, right? And even chimps do that, that's pretty high level. Think about that. Like an ant colony, or maybe not an ant colony because they steal some stuff, but like a wolf pack fights another wolf pack, they're not gonna like take the women and stuff. Like and maybe they would, but that's just more proof that it's deep within the evolutionary tree, right? This stuff. So, right? What kind of philosophical understanding do you have, really, as a human? Are you walking? What do you fucking do? You wake up in the morning, you eat your breakfast, you go to work, you do what people tell you, you kind of just scoot on by. It's not like you have some amazing understanding of anything. You're an animal. You're an animal with slightly different social structures, right? Slightly more brain structures in different ways. Not better, not more evolved, differently evolved, right? And I don't know, so, okay, I know a surprising amount of people, even with my own family, that think that humans couldn't have evolved by themselves, which is a ridiculous thing. So I'm going to put some images on the screen here. We have, just mountains of fossil evidence of this. Neanderthals were a small, they evolved before humans. They lived for 600,000 to 700,000 years in Central Europe. They were 5 foot tall, 200 pounds, like 130 kilos, 5 foot tall. They were just jacked. That's a species of human that had art. They had jewelry. They did cave paintings. They had language. The Hobbit people of New Zealand, right? This is not very well known. It's one of my favorite things to tell people. The Hobbit people of New Zealand, these 2 to 3 foot tall, it's not one person, not one bones. They found this in a cave in New Zealand. A tribe of people who were 2 or 3 foot tall, and they had clothing and tools and fire and all this sort of stuff living in New Zealand in the mountains. 14,000 years ago or something like that. I'll post the number, I'm probably wrong. Hobbit people, a tribe of Hobbit people in New Zealand, which is just hilarious to me. Like, if God is real, then he's an amazing comedian, huh? Denisovans. So, Aboriginal cultures and Papua New Guinean cultures have a certain percentage of Denisovan DNA. This is another lesser known branch of the human, species. Denisovans, there's very little information about them, but they were basically, in sort of the Asia down to Australia. They sort of lived in that region, and they were another species of different human being that we have a million examples of evidence for. This is not arguable. Evolution is real. Spend 5 minutes researching. If you doubt me, I promise you would be amazed how many people still are not on board with that train, right? So to conclude, you're a monkey. You're a monkey. And you have no free will, probably. Listen to some Sam Harris stuff. Maybe I'll put some links if I can be bothered. Sam Harris has some great information about how your brain is just electrons traveling through predetermined physical pathways, and you have no control over it because you're really just an observer. Look into some Buddhism stuff. The language is very religious, but it's actually a very scientific philosophy, and it's not faith-based in any way. The human mind and the human body are not special or unique in any way within the animal kingdom, except for a matter of degree and a matter of different adaptations in different areas. So as a final thing, there's an experiment that they do with chimps where they have a box in a tree where chimps are, and the chimps come and they get a peanut if they do it. And it's like a bunch of lights. I'll edit this in. A bunch of lights light up in a pattern. It'll be like a square, and then it'll go like boom, 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 boom. And then the chimp has to hit them all in the correct order, right? They are like literally hundreds of times better at this than human beings are. They don't even try. It's a ridiculous. They're just sitting there like all chimpy, and then they just they just do it. It's there's a something trade-off hypothesis about how humans probably, in order to evolve the certain sort of more specialized aspects of our brain, we had to give up a lot of systems such as that, like photographic memory and stuff like this, that we don't really understand the skills that the brains of animals have that are probably way better than us. It's just a matter of enormous arrogance to assume that humans are special in any way if you look at the evidence that we've collected through, the scientific method. You know what I mean? And it's just, like, if you think about it,